I just wanted to wait until it's 5 o'clock and then we can start. in case. It's 5 o'clock and I'm going to call the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Wednesday, July 13th, 2022 to order. We do have 6 board members present today. It takes 4 votes in the affirmative in order to pass any variance requests. Today we have just 1 request for 2 area variances. And at this time, the housekeeping items is that we allow the petitioner time to further explain the need for the variances. And we are dealing with some variances that have been approved in the past. The request has been made to extend those only, so we will hear from the petitioner on that. Again, it takes 4 votes in the affirmative for us to approve any kind of an extension. At this point, I will ask the clerk to read the request.
Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the City of Jamestown, New York will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, July 13th, 2022 at 5 o'clock p.m. via Zoom to consider the following. The request for a further extension of the variance granted on July 1, 2020. The matter of the petition of Charles D. Greco, Bond, Shenick and King, Avent Building, Suite 900, 200 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 14202 for 2 area variances. 1 regarding the number of proposed parking spaces and 1 regarding proposed automotive use setbacks on parcels 387.50-1-21, 22.1, 22.2, 23.1, 23.2, 25.1, 26.1, 27, 28, 54, 55, and 56 at 31, 53, and 55 Water Street, owned by Community Helping Hands in an M zone. Section 300-0506 parking spaces, 251 spaces are required. Proposed is 148. Section 300-0502 F3 in all M districts, all automotive use areas shall be set back at least 5 feet from all property lines, except that where said area abuts any R district, it shall be set back at least 10 feet from all property lines. Proposed is 4.4 on the west property line. Section 300-1115A, lapse of authorization. Any variance, special use permit, or modification of regulations authorized by the Board of Appeals shall be automatically revoked unless a building permit conforming to all the conditions and requirements established by the Board of Appeals is obtained within 6 months of the date of approval by the Board of Appeals and construction is commenced within 1 year of such date of approval. Note, an extension of the variance was granted at the August 11, 2021 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you, Jennifer. At this time, we do have a representative for the petitioning party, Mr. Greco, who is on the call. And at this point, we would allow you to make remarks. Please state your name and home address and tell us a little bit more about this request.
Yes, thank you. Charles Greco, Bond, Shenick and King, 200 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, for the applicant, Southern Tier Environments for Living. As I think was explained, we had previously applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for 2 area variances. 1 for a shortage on parking spaces and 1 for a relatively minor setback on the west property line. And those were both granted in July of 2020. We did seek an extension of that variance last year, basically a year ago, because the project is still have some work to do to get to the point where we'll be in a position to pull a building permit and complete the construction. just a little bit of background on the project. This is it's a big project. We're significantly rehabilitating a very old, very large industrial structure, formerly industrial structure in the city. The project is in the Brownfield Cleanup Program to remediate the site. And that, of course, has some processes that need to be gotten through, and we've been working our way through those. Also, because the project is seeking and needs state approval and for the type of housing that it's providing, and is also seeking tax credits for that housing as well as on the brownfield side. That process is ongoing, and all elements of this project were significantly impacted by COVID, as I think you will not be surprised to hear. The project again was approved at the height of the pandemic. The construction industry obviously has been severely impacted due to supply chain issues. Inflation issues have been very significant, and that has created some difficulties, delays, I guess I should say, in finalizing the financing. Client is seeking, is in the process of obtaining a bridge loan for that purpose. So as we explained or I explained in my letter submitting the request for this extension, all of those factors we think justify another extension here. It's still a great project. Still intend to complete it. But just the realities of doing a construction project of this magnitude, it's still coming out of the pandemic, has presented some challenges. We don't think the circumstances surrounding the original approvals have really changed, and therefore we think a further extension is appropriate. I'll also just point out that we also requested an extension on the site plan approval, which also has a time limit on it, and that was granted last month. So I'd be happy to answer any questions any of the board members have about the project, but that's essentially the relief we're looking for.
Thank you. Are there questions from members of the board? I think you did a nice job explaining the reason why you would like the extension. The site plan was extended for another year, correct?
That's correct.
And I think probably, all of us want this to go forward. Obviously, we have approved the variance request in the past. You're not making any changes to the site plan at this point? No,
we don't anticipate that at all. Obviously, if we did, we'd have to go back to the planning board and seek a modification, but we have no plans to do that. Again, this really is just a function right now of trying to get all of our ducks in a row so that we can move forward with the remediation and then the build out.
Okay. And you had mentioned in terms of financing a bridge loan, do you have any idea when that might be approved?
We as I indicated in the letter, we believe we will have that finalized by the end of 2022. And that will allow us to, the bridge loan and the financing. The bridge loan is going to help us close on the financing. That by December of this year, we were hoping to have that in place, which means we could then start construction in early 2023.
Okay. Are there other questions from members of the board? Either raise your hand or take yourself off mute. We do not have any other correspondence, I don't believe. Do we, Jennifer?
No, I haven't received anything.
Okay. So I am assuming that the letter from Bond will become part of the official record. I don't think we need to read that. That was given to us in advance. And at this point, then we would be looking for a motion from a member of the board to extend the 2 area variances for 1 year to allow the STEL and the other partners to come up with the appropriate funding to move forward.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Kennedy
Second,
and Mr.
second,
Is that, oh, okay, thank you, Mr. Kenyon, a second on that. Again, this is to extend the 2 area variances that had previously been approved by this board for 1 year, so that the work can continue on this project to get the proper funding. Questions, comments before we vote? Seeing none, I would ask the clerk to poll the board.
Mrs. Jones,
yes,
Mr. Kenyon,
yes,
Mr. Panabianco,
Yes.
Mr. Sandberg,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Chair DeTanto.
Yes. That shows 6 votes in the affirmative to continue the extension. You will need to work now with Mr. Scalise and his team to make sure that that extension is enforced. And we wish you good luck on the project.
Thank you very much and appreciate everybody's time.
No other business. We'll close the meeting for now. Thank you, everybody.